There's a quiet fear that follows aging in today's world. It shows up in whispered jokes about over the hill, in ads selling miracle creams, and in birthday cards that start trading warmth for warning. We don't always say it out loud, but it's there, in the way we treat age like something to hide, something to dread. But what if we've been getting it all wrong? What if the scariest parts of getting older aren't actually real, but myths we've inherited from a culture that doesn't know how to value experience, depth, or time? Because as it turns out, growing old isn't the problem. The real problem is what we've been taught to believe about it. So let's talk about it. Let's look at 5 of the most common misconceptions about aging and uncover the surprising, liberating truths behind them. 1. Old age means poor health. This is the one that makes people fear birthdays. We associate aging with illness, with canes, pills, doctor's appointments, and a slow loss of independence. It's not entirely unfounded. Our bodies do change with time. Recovery slows. We tire more easily. Joints may ache, and some conditions become more likely. But here's the truth. Poor health and old age are not the same thing. The human body is remarkably resilient, even in later years. Around the world, there are people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s living vibrant, active lives. They walk, they garden, they dance. Some run marathons, others practice yoga. Many live completely independently well into old age. Why? Because aging well isn't just about genetics, it's about lifestyle. Staying physically active, eating well, avoiding isolation, and staying mentally engaged all contribute to a healthier later life. Not perfect health, no one has that, but a kind of strength that doesn't always show up in blood tests. The truth is, the biggest threat to health in older adults isn't age, it's disconnection. It's believing that it's too late to change, to move, or to care. And that belief, that's the most dangerous condition of all. 2. Older people can't learn new things. Somewhere along the way, we started acting like learning stops at 30. Like curiosity, creativity, and change all belong to the young. We assume that as people age, they become more set in their ways, less flexible, less capable of adapting. It's a quiet assumption, but it's everywhere, and it's completely false. The human brain is capable of neuroplasticity, meaning it can rewire, reshape, and learn well into our 80s and beyond. Older adults are writing novels, learning new languages, picking up instruments for the first time, and even learning how to edit videos, use smartphones, and navigate the digital world. Not because they have to, but because they want to. And maybe that's the most beautiful part. In later life, learning becomes a choice, not a requirement. It's never too late to become curious again, never too late to grow. In fact, for many, aging brings the kind of patience and humility that makes learning even richer, not rushed, not competitive, just meaningful. 3. Old age is lonely and depressing. It's one of the most heartbreaking stereotypes that as we grow older, we grow lonelier, that we become isolated, forgotten, irrelevant. Yes, loneliness is real, and yes, many older adults face it, especially those who've lost partners or live far from family. But that isn't the whole story. Because what's also true is that many people become happier as they age. Really, not in a grin and bear it kind of way, but in a deep, peaceful way. Psychologists call it the happiness curve. Life satisfaction often dips in midlife, our 30s and 40s, with their stress and striving, but begins to rise again in our 50s, 60s, and beyond. Why? Because with age comes emotional clarity. The small stuff doesn't matter as much. We start letting go of perfectionism. We stop caring so much about what other people think. We've seen enough life to know that many storms pass. Older people often have deeper friendships too, not more friends, but better ones. Less noise, more meaning. And solitude, that's not always loneliness. Sometimes it's healing. Aging doesn't automatically lead to depression. Often it leads to a kind of peace that only comes from having lived through enough to know who you really are. 4. Older people aren't productive. This one's deeply ingrained in modern culture. We link value to productivity, to job titles, performance reviews, and output. So when someone retires or slows down, we assume their contribution to society has ended. But that couldn't be more wrong. Older adults contribute in quieter, but often more powerful ways. They raise grandchildren, volunteer in communities, offer mentorship, share wisdom. They are the keepers of culture, the storytellers, the legacy builders. They write, paint, cook, build, teach, not because they're paid to, but because they can. Some start nonprofits. Others finally open that cafe, write that book, or build that garden they always dreamed of. And let's not forget, some of history's greatest contributions came late in life. Nelson Mandela became president at 75. Grandma Moses started painting in her late 70s. Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s. Productivity doesn't disappear with age, it just shifts from building careers to building meaning. 5. Old age is all about decline. This is the lie that sits beneath all the others. That aging is just a slow, inevitable unraveling. That life becomes less interesting, less vibrant, and less worth living with each passing year. But here's what I've seen, and what so many people who've lived long enough will tell you. Aging isn't just about decline, it's about arrival. Yes, the body changes. Yes, there are losses of loved ones, roles, and abilities. But there's also freedom. Freedom to let go of what doesn't matter. Freedom to stop proving and start being. Freedom to embrace your weirdness, your softness, your truth. Many people in their later years say they feel more themselves than ever before. They laugh louder, they cry easier. They say no more freely and say yes to things that once seemed out of reach. It's a time of reflection, creativity, spiritual deepening, and sometimes rebirth. What if aging isn't a fade to gray, but a slow reveal of gold, the truth about aging? We've spent so long fearing old age that we've forgotten to see it for what it truly is, a powerful, rich, meaningful chapter of life, not a curse, not a punishment, not a surrender, but a new kind of becoming. We need to start telling new stories about aging, stories of possibility, of purpose, of joy, because aging is not the opposite of youth. It's the continuation of life, with more depth, more clarity, and often more beauty. So the next time someone makes a joke about getting old, smile. Because every line on your face is a story, every gray hair is a victory, and every passing year is a reminder. You're still here, still growing, still becoming. And that's something to celebrate.